so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 111, the play-by-play with Sreten and the Juice, which is myself today, is a very special guest. You may know him as the voice of promotions such as Warrior Wrestling, Defy. He's also involved with Fest Wrestling, and one of the major promotions going on, one of our favorites today, is Major League Wrestling. And he's also a alumni of the WWE. You know, the one that everybody likes and everybody wants to get to, but then they treat you like shit and you say, fuck it, I can do something better. Those guys. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome to the show, Rich Bocchini.
Oh my
Hello. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. As you can see here, I'm high above the city of Manhattan. I like to get around the country whenever I can, and you never know where I'm going to turn up next. Somehow I'm across the river in New Jersey in a skyscraper that I just found today. It's amazing how these things work. But high above the city, it's never know where I'm going to show up.
Yeah, I got a little Manhattan project going on. I can see it.
Yeah. So very clear tonight. Very clear. No clouds over the city. So it's amazing how this worked out.
Hell yeah. So, brother, first of all, before we get into your backstory, any of that, what's kind of been going on in your world since I know MLW isn't doing anything at the moment? What have you been up to? I know you're a play-by-play guy. You really love your hockey and whatnot. Have you been able to kind of do anything in a social distance manner, or how we do our show now with the Zoom and all that? Or what's been going on in your life?
Well, every day is kind of the same, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are running into right now. I luck out in some ways that I work from home to begin with, so it's not too different, except that I haven't been on an airplane since March, and usually at least once a month, sometimes more than that. I'm used to getting on the plane, going somewhere. So it's been a little weird, but I think just like everybody else, safety first. Hopefully, I'm not one of these virus deniers or anything like that. Florida it just had a recent flare up, so
I know.
Surprise, Florida and Texas.
Jeez. Yeah,
two of the states that really opened up first. Oddly, Georgia, I don't think has reported a whole lot more. But yeah, I don't want to talk a whole lot about the virus. But point is, just like everybody else, I've just been sitting here. I've had a couple Defy shows to call with some older stuff that's unreleased. So I've had something in that regard to keep me busy, and I'm still working. My regular job is still, thankfully I'm still employed. So it's just been a lot of like everybody else. Like I wake up and it's like, today, it's like legitimately, it's like Groundhog Day. It's like Bill Murray on Groundhog. It's the same thing, and it's
same shit, different pants.
That's it. So I've been watching some KBO baseball, which has been interesting.
How's that been?
It's good. I was watching.
Good.
Yeah, I was watching a game once and they had the stuffed animals in the crowd, which is pretty cool. So I've been watching that. I've been keeping up with with the protests around the country on Twitch. There's a couple of different channels you can go on that have like multi-screen from different cities. So that's been interesting. I was watching the stuff in Atlanta the other night, and that was really interesting to watch. But like I said, just like everybody else, just really trying not to go nuts. Trying to keep it as positive an outlook on things as I can. So I hope that answers it.
Right. Then you got to stay away from the news.
The nudes or the news? I like the nudes.
Well, no, you got to keep the nudes. The news. NEWS.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's why I've been going on some of the streams and stuff, because like instead of just seeing whatever okay, we're gonna show this we can show this. Like sometimes they don't want to show certain things. I'm actually watching stuff as it's happening, which is you get a different perspective on things. You really do.
Right. So I know Warrior's putting together a best of DVD compilation. Yeah. Are you going to be doing anything for that?
Steve hasn't told me. I don't know if we're going to be doing lead-ins, or if they're just going to just put it together like match to match to match. I don't know. I'm not sure.
We started going to Warrior at I think round 3. Warrior 3 was our first, and we've been nonstop ever since. Man, there's been some hellacious fucking matches to come through there. What's one that stands out, one or two that stand out to you the most? I mean, you get to call these things, so it's fucking it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, honestly, the match that stands out to me is probably the best match that Warrior has ever put on. Would be Lawler and was it Ridgeway, right?
Oh yeah.
I thought that match was tremendous. There was story behind it. They actually stayed. Holy crap! They stayed inside the ring. There weren't a million dives. There weren't a million. You know what I mean? Like everything made sense in context of the match, and it's the kind of wrestling that I like. I don't mind dives. I don't mind high spots. I don't mind a flashy, quick performance. I just want stuff to make sense.
Right.
And when stuff doesn't make sense, that's where it loses me. I know it's not real, right? We all know it's not real. Don't remind me it's not real. That's kind of
just don't say the F word. Don't say the F word. We don't say that on here. Out of respect. Okay. Got respect. That's right.
So that match really stood out to me. Warrior's an interesting promotion in the sense where it's really like an all-star promotion, right? It's what Steve is doing is not dissimilar to like what Paul Bosch did in Houston for years, where he had no real affiliation with anybody. He would bring in the AWA champ, he'd bring in the NWA champ, sometimes he'd bring in the WWF champ, right? Mm-hmm. So he was bringing in guys from all corners of the wrestling universe, and Steve gets to do that as well. The downside with that is that you don't always have story going into a match. So a lot of times it's just a match, and when you tell guys it's just a match, they're like, okay, what do you want me to do? I don't know. It's whatever. So guys go out there and they do whatever. Which sometimes is good. Other times is, it's just a bunch of moves. But, that Ridgeway Lawler match, I really thought they told a story. And I'm not I don't want to make it sound like I'm crapping on Warrior Wrestling, because I'm not by any means. There have been some tremendous matches there. But that match, for the reasons I laid out, just really, really, really stood out to me as some of the best that Warriors. I mean, there's been other great stuff over there as well. Some of the stuff with Brian Cage, I thought's been really interesting. Aries, he's such a heat magnet whenever he comes in, and he's another guy that's like, he wants stuff to make sense. He may be difficult to work with or whatever, but I've always gotten along with him, and he just wants stuff to make sense. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'd almost have to go back through the list of all the matches, and then there'd probably be a few that would be like, oh yeah, that one. Right?
Oh yeah. I'm just saying, kind of off the top of your head. We don't like to fucking keep notes and all that.
Yeah,
shit,
I do though. I keep notes for stuff, but But no, Lawler Ridgeway, and I don't know whether or not that match. I hope it makes it. I really do, because I thought that match was. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, we both. I know Sreten.
It was Ridgeway, right?
Yeah, Chris Ridgeway.
Okay, all right. I'm making sure. I'm like, no, I remember the match. I'm not sure if it was the right guy or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it set like a totally different pace, like for the night. Like it was just out of nowhere. I mean, it was some good, just pure fucking wrestling, and kind of hold for hold submission style. A little bit of MMA mixed in, just a very reality based.
People get into it.
Yeah, and it was great. I know we both thoroughly enjoyed the hell out of that match.
There's so many matches that you see, not just at war, and everywhere. Everybody wants to have the match of the night, right? Mm-hmm. And there's not a whole lot of on the independents. There's not a whole lot of, well, I'm the second match on the card. Maybe I shouldn't do 10 Canadian Destroyers. You know what I mean?
Man, I love that move, and it's such a shame what it has been bastardized down to.
I think it's I think it's an awful move. I think it's terrible, because to me it's like a Spanish fly, right? Especially a Spanish fly off the top. Who's giving the move to whom, right? Like if you're just a fan that watches, you just turn it on some night and you see that, you're going to be like, who got hurt? Like I'm not sure who took that move. Like I don't. Right? We get it because we see it all the time. But because we're in that wrestling bubble, we think that people outside of it know what's going on. And you know what? They don't. They don't have any idea what's going on.
And,
with this show, I come from the viewpoint of the new guy. And that is one of the moves where when I'm watching highlights or when I'm watching a match, I'm usually not sure who just got hurt. Sometimes I know, like if a dude's on a roll, and then he
Right.
drops that move, I'm like, oh, okay, I know. Like, I know it just happened. But what I don't, I agree possibly with you guys is that's one of the moves. If I see it, I need the match to be done. I don't want somebody to be able to like roll out of or get like hyped, like Hulk out after getting that move put on him like 30 times. Then my whole like suspension of disbelief and entertainment, I kind of start to shut down. And I love Highspots and I love all that stuff, but I also love the technical stuff. You know, I've become a huge Lawler fan in the last couple of years because he kills himself.
I get to the point where like you start seeing matches where guys are, you know, whether it's a Canadian Destroyer, even stuff with just like punches or kicks, and guys don't register. They pop right back up. Like, to me, that tells me that you have the weakest punches that I've ever seen. You can't knock right. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of weird to me. That
Gotta lay it in.
That's where that disconnect comes in. Yeah, like, I get it. If you started a match and you kick a guy or whatever, and then it's over, people are going to be like, the hell, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it also, I don't know. It I'm supposed to believe that like you can take a pile driver on the apron, and then a minute later you're diving off the top rope doing a blockbuster or what? Like,
yeah,
that's it. Maybe I'm too old, but that's the kind of stuff that it just kind of, I just kind of lose interest right there. You know.
Oh yeah, I get it, man, and it's like Sretten's saying too, because he's a finisher guy. Like, and in this day and age where everybody takes 15 finishers a match, and I hearken and throw this back to like almost like the death of the DDT.
Oh yeah,
that move, that was like you say, if you want to go back to story based wrestling, that was like Jake was always consistently telling that story during the match of he was always working towards that DDT, you know. And then it became this bastardized move now that, like, let's face it, dude, in high school, I fought somebody in the gym because he had a fucking attitude with the way I was playing basketball. I was killing him on defense, and he fucking pushed me. I grabbed him. I legit DDT'd his ass, fucking hurt him in the gym, you know?
Right.
I mean, he ended up being all right, but still, it's a devastating move. And then that becomes, it should be. And, you know, everybody just kicks out of it now, and then it becomes like nothing. And that's what like this Canadian Destroyers, it should have been like something, whether it was P.D. Williams that actually created it or not, who fucking knows, who fucking cares. All I know is that at one point in time, if you didn't see it a lot, when you did see it and it was like the finish, it was like, wow, dude, like
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not like that anymore. And like Sretten's saying, I love a good finish too. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can have a good match, albeit if it's a spot match or some technicality going on, and maybe take a finisher or two. It has to be spaced out properly, you know. Like, but it's just nowadays, man. There's too much of that shit going. Everybody's just taking everybody's finish and getting out of it. And
when I was very early in my career, I worked with Booker T, and I was at his gym, and it's a training night or whatever. MVP was there. MVP was. Nice. I don't know if he still lives in Houston or whatever, but he was there, and he just came in one night. I want to say might have been right before he went to New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere around there. But anyway, so he's in there and he's chain wrestling with the guys and stuff. And two of the younger kids go in. The kid gives another kid a DDT, and the other kid pops out of it. He stopped the match and he laid in on these guys. Laid in on them.
Sucker.
And it wasn't Booker. It was MVP. It was MVP who laid in. And he's like, that used to be a finisher. You know why it's not anymore? Because you killed it. And he pointed at them because you killed it.
I like that.
And that was 2011, somewhere around there, 2000, something like that. And that was early in actually me being involved in wrestling, and that really stuck with me. Like, makes all the sense in the world. I think where you get like a God, I sound so old saying this, but you get the younger generation of kids who are coming into wrestling who have never seen what it was. They've never seen the old school Southern stuff, the old school NWA stuff. Honestly, even like the old WWF stuff where you built to a finisher, where you'd send out the Undertaker here and there on a TV show, and he'd go and he'd job a guy out, and it was solely to get the tombstone over. That's it. That's the only reason that he had a match. And you knew, right, that in a big match, when he went for the tombstone, you knew the match was going to end. And if it didn't end, well, now that's a change to the pattern. Oh my God, what does he do now, right? And that doesn't exist anymore. I call it like the skateboardification or the video gamification of wrestling, where everything is just high spot, and people are more interested in saying, well, I didn't quite have that proper form on that 450 off the top, as opposed to, holy shit, he just did a 450 off the top. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between the two.
That's a good point. You do see a lot of that on Twitter, where people pick apart a match based on botches, and you'll see a match that has like we're huge AEW fans. Think what you will, that's what we are. And they do a lot of high spots, and I am a fan. And I like the way they do. I like the way that most places do high spots. It's when it's the finisher. It's towing a line with the finisher stuff. Like if you have a specific set of moves that are supposed to denote the end of a match, and all they do is kind of be like a time marker and be like, all right, I did my finisher, but there's going to be 30 minutes left in this match. That's when I kind of turn off. I've been recently watching, trying to give hardcore wrestling a chance, and on the indie circuit.
Why?
And I was, and I already don't like it, but it's part of a project we're trying to work on soon.
Sure.
Like Wallace likes hardcore matches. The guy Bodie that does the show with us, he likes hardcore matches, sprinkled in, not exclusively, but they do like them.
Sure.
It's not a way of life.
It's not a way of life. Yeah. And I even saw one live, and I just can't, because it really is. It's like moves that should murder someone. Blood, enough blood spilled. There's literally like a gallon or at least a pint of blood that each man pours all over the ring, which is disgusting. But outside of that, even if you're into that stuff, it just ends up being a topper on a topper on a topper. So you end up doing more and more dangerous stuff. When we saw it live, we almost saw a guy fell on a light tube and almost cut the artery that was in his bicep.
What happened to Arquette? Happened to David Arquette?
Yeah, he almost died. Yeah. Like he was like, I'll finish this match and then I'll go to the hospital after we stop at Whataburger. But like, it just, that kind of stuff, I can't get into that shit. But I think for the most part, even the new guys, I disagree a little bit. They are still telling good stories from my point of view. And I came in like a year and a half ago, really, like we started this 2 years ago, but I was kind of just like in the shallow end. And now I've jumped into the deep end. Whereas the last time I watched it was heyday WWF times, Macho Man, Jake the Snake, finishers meant something. The finisher, like the regular moves were simple punches and drop kicks. And then the finisher was a DDT. And every time you were like, oh, and you knew that was it. And then the guys sold it. They didn't move. They didn't get up. They didn't have the energy to like climb on the top ropes and fly into the air. But, you know, I don't know. Entertainment is entertainment. I guess to each their own. I got a little long-winded there.
I enjoy a hardcore match when it means something. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
You know, like the old days, just for
like Dusty and shit.
Yeah, like you know, if Dusty was going to blow off a feud or whatever, there'd be, you know, sometimes there'd be a barbed wire match, right?
Right.
Which I don't have a problem with that at all. Like it made perfect sense to me. Of course, like these two Texans are going to settle this once and for all. And what are you going to use? Barbed wire, right? Like, you know, it made sense to me, but you didn't see it more than maybe once or twice a year, you know?
Right.
So it meant something. And, you know, if just to expand on kind of what you're saying a little bit, like things meaning something, like there's so much content that's out there today. WWE puts so much content out there. It's tough for them to make anything mean anything. Like before, like they would go, let's just say like Extreme Rules. You'd go to Extreme Rules, right? You didn't know that Extreme Rules was booked for, you know, whatever. When I don't even know when they do it anymore. Let's just say October 1st. You didn't know it was booked for October.
I think it's the next pay-per-view coming up.
Is it? Okay. Well, whatever, right? Point is, they're now booking matches to fit into Extreme Rules as opposed to a match that called for Extreme Rules in the first place.
Right.
So it doesn't mean anything. It's just a bunch of fucking stupidity, really. I mean,
is that sort of like Hell in the Cell, where they do the thing and they have to have a Hell in the Cell match?
Yeah, like you're shoehorning gimmicks. You're shoehorning things that should blow off a feud in theory, right? Should have some kind of outcome. Right. It should mean something when it's all over. And it doesn't. It's just, oh, hey, guess what? We have a Hell in a Cell match next week, or whatever. We have an Extreme Rules match next week. Big Show, I want to face you in a stairs match. The fuck is that? Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been known for a long time now to let a lot of people down with all kinds of, it's been, man, the E, you know, we try to maintain positivity on here, but you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, growing up and when you love their product so much and what it's become, and it's cringeworthy. I mean, you were fucking there.
Well, yeah, I was. Funny thing is, growing up, I was an NWA fan. I was a Jim Crockett Promotions fan.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I'm from Rhode Island, right? So it's a WWF territory, or was.
Right.
And we used to get WWF matches basically every month. And it's funny, I actually just retweeted when you go to the shows back then, you get the insert in the program that listed the matches. And I've been looking for the program from when NWA came to Boston Garden in '87. My dad took me to that. And, you know, when we had moved, I had got rid of a bunch of stuff. And that was in some of the stuff that we got rid of. Anyway, Cornette reposted a picture of that lineup where some fan had sent it out. And another friend of mine that I know, I sent it to him because he's been looking for it. And, you know, that was April of '87. That was the first time that the NWA had come that far north. You know what I mean? So you didn't get to see them. But to see the WWF, it was basically, you know, they ran Boston once a month. They ran Providence once a month or close enough, right? But I always, even being from the area, and, you know, seeing Hogan and, you know, having tears running down my eyes when I thought Orndorff was going to get out of the cage before Hogan, like I still care. I still cared, but it was like the NWA to me was just something so different. It was just gritty, and it felt. I listen again. Even at that age, 10, 11 years old, I knew it wasn't on the up and up. I didn't care. It felt more real. It felt grittier. So that's what I gravitated to. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's my wrestling journey started with, you know, as a 4 or 5 year old kid watching the WWF, and then the more enveloped I got in the product, I became a huge NWA WCW fan. And I was, dude,
I draw the line at WCW because when it became WCW, it kind of. But and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go on, please.
It's all good. But there was some good shit. Like I really like the WCW Saturday Night. I've said it many times on here. In '92, early '90s era, there was a lot of crossover. They brought in a lot of, you know, Rick Rude was there.
Yeah, Liger,
Orndorff. Yeah, Liger. I mean, there was some really good shit going on then. And then obviously everybody knows the rest of that fucking story. But
that was yeah.
I love the old gritty shit too, like WCCW and all that stuff, man. It was amazing, you know, reading about it as a kid and watching some old videotapes. And we had Eli the Eliminator on that used to wrestle down there. And like hearing some of his stories and getting to kind of relive that. Like, it's like you're saying that I get that like feeling right now just thinking about it, like the gritty realism, like these fucking big hairy ass hillbilly dudes like kicking each other's ass. I fucking love that shit, dude. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is, man.
I grew up, you know, I'm old enough that I was around for the very, very tail end of the territories. So as a kid on TV, like I got to watch, you know, like you said, like world class AWA, and you know, worldwide wrestling on for the NWA sporadically, because sometimes it'd be on. I remember it used to be on a station out of Worcester, Mass, at like midnight or 1 a.m. or something, right? And then they would change it around, or, you know, you wouldn't always get it at the same time. So whenever I got to actually see that, I got it. I remember driving down to Florida with my family and, you know, stopping at a hotel in like Virginia or something and putting it on. Oh my God, there's Mid-Atlantic Wrestling with Bob Caudle. Holy shit.
Mid-Atlantic was great too.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so it's like all those different promotions, I get to take all that in and you know, I look back at it now and I was just a wrestling fan, but, you know, I think about the impact that it had on me, you know, now as somebody who's involved in the business. It just kind of, I don't know. I feel like it gave me a good baseline of like, okay, like, listen, we know it's not on the level, but we're not, you know, it's like David Copperfield. We're not going to tell you how we do our magic. We're going to do it, but we're not going to tell you. We'll tell you it's magic, but we're not going to tell you how it's magic. You know, that's for you to try to figure out on your own.
Right. So a couple of your influences, I mean, you being a play-by-play guy, and you got to work with a couple of legends. We were in Chicago when Jim Cornette made his debut with MLW. You still cool with Jim, or?
Yeah. Yep.
And then you also got to work. I loved Tony Schiavone, his time with MLW. That was so fucking cool. And right before AEW came and swooped him up, I was like, man, this is awesome that Tony's back on a wrestling product, because I knew he was doing. I think he was doing baseball or something like that.
He was the voice for the when the Richmond Braves moved to Gwinnett County. The Braves AAA farm team. They were in Richmond forever, and they moved them to the Atlanta area where Tony lives. And he actually went to the GM or the owner or whatever, and he said, "Hey, I'd like to be your official scorekeeper." Because Tony broke into the business in baseball, working for Crockett's, and they own baseball teams in Charlotte. So he said, "Hey, I'd like to be your official scorekeeper." And the GM said to him, "I'll do you one better. How about you be the radio guy?" And Tony said, "All right." You know what I mean? So it's funny. I'd actually reached out to Tony a couple times over the years, and for a while he wanted nothing to do with wrestling. And he had actually blocked me on Twitter. Like, I'd sent him a tweet like, "Hey, Tony, next time you're in Pawtucket, with Gwinnett, make sure you stop by the House of Pizza on Division Street, right near the stadium," right? Fucking blocked me. I was, what the hell is this? So a couple of years later, I ended up meeting him, and I'll tell you a quick story. When Court Bauer called me to tell me who my broadcast partner was going to be for MLW, he said to me, "How do you feel about working with Doink?" I said, I'm kind of sitting there I remember I was in the car, pulled over to the side of the road, and I'm thinking to myself, God, I thought that he wanted to do like somewhat serious wrestling. But I'm thinking to myself, all these thoughts are going through my head in about the course of about 10 seconds. And I said, I'll tell you what, Court, if the check clears, I don't care who it is. Right. Because at that point I was not really involved in wrestling. It was just kind of whatever. Like, it was supposed to be one show, maybe two. I didn't really care. I was like, whatever. And then I'm thinking, didn't Matt Bourne died a year or two ago, didn't he? Like, what the? Anyway, so I'm kind of sitting there. Hey, as long as the check clears, whatever. And he said, "Nah, I'm kidding. Your broadcast partner is going to be Tony Schiavone." Because again, growing up 9, 10, 11 years old, he was really one of the first wrestling play-by-play voices that I paid attention to. And hearing him, I can still. There was Snapmare and something, and I went, what do you call that, what he does? And then, it all kind of came together. Oh, that's a play-by-play guy. Well, how do you become a play-by-play? So all these thoughts started going through my head. So to get to work, to bring it back around, to get to work with Tony legitimately was a super, super, super big honor for me. And I told him as much. And, to his credit, he was like, "Listen, man, I haven't been in this for a while. I'm not 100% sure who some of these guys are, whatever. So I asked him before the first show we did, I'm like, how do you want to do this? He goes, "Well, that's up to you." I said, no, Tony. And he goes, "I knew you were going to do that." I said, "Well," and he says, "Listen, you take the lead. I need you to guide me along." And I'm not saying that to put myself over. You know what I mean? I'm not. But it was kind of like to be in that position with the guy whose voice was one of the reasons that I even do this in the first place, was just like, huh? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, Tony and I we worked great together. We had a lot of fun, and I'm happy to see him having fun again doing it. He had fun doing it with MLW, but you get the sense on he's having fun. So
it seems a little too maybe like he's kind of rehashing or reliving maybe a little bit of that WCW glory or something, just because he is with a bigger promotion, I guess. You know what I mean? That kind of, a lot of people kind of match that up to, well, they're the modern day WCW, or if that makes sense.
It's far from me to be critical of another company, right? I don't feel like that's my place. I will just say for my taste, I wish that they would dial back the ha-ha just a little bit.
Fair enough. Well, obviously I don't want to put you like under fire, under the gun or anything, and this ain't like a loaded question or anything, but with MLW and the way Court operates, it's very eclectic mix of like different styles. Hence the fucking name Fusion, Yeah. I've been to several, I think all the fucking Cicero TV tapings. I was at the pay-per-view, had a blast each time. What is kind of like your opinion on that? Obviously if you don't want to answer any of this shit, you don't have to, I ain't trying to fucking get you in trouble or anything, but because I kind of get the feel, and you alluded to that you're not a big hardcore guy. It has to make sense. Like there's a place for it. And I think MLW does a pretty damn good job of balancing everything out on there.
Yeah. So, I think that we've, for the most part, most of the matches that we've done that have been, gimmick style matches, they've been for a reason. So
right, yeah, they seem to have. There's a lot of meaning behind everything they do. At least it comes off that way to me. And I think like MLW was early on when we started doing this, and I turned Sreten on to. I'm like, dude, these are like, this is one of the major promotions you need to watch. Like once all this shit blows over. I mean, the way Court's been securing all these deals and all this shit, man, it's going to be cool to see you guys blow up. And I hope that fucking happens because the product it's on fire, man. And I love even the anthology series. I've been watching that. I just finished the Lucha Bros episode, which was killer. And I'm waiting for that Extreme Horseman episode next week,
I just did the VO for that a little while ago, actually. So, that's been keeping me busy. I think I said that I had some Defy stuff, a couple shows that are in the can that I got to call. But yeah, every week for the anthology stuff for sure. You've seen it, whether it's me or AJ bridging each segment together, so that's been keeping me busy. I've enjoyed the anthology series a lot. But eclectic styles. I mean that, there's stuff that, and I've alluded to it just in general in wrestling. The stuff I like, there's stuff that I don't like. I think you could probably hear it in what I'm saying as I'm calling a match if I don't particularly care for it, but I have to put that aside as well in that instance. Listen, if we were doing something that I just thought was, hokey horseshit,
right.
If there was too much of that at some point, honestly, I'd probably just be like, it's not for me anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not making a killing doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, whatever. If it got to the point to me where everything was just goofy, but on the same hand, I mean, you mentioned earlier Fest Wrestling. I mean, Fest Wrestling, like, the joke is we play fast and loose with the rules.
Right.
So there's a lot of, it's also on a completely different level. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not a national show. It's more of a local, regional thing. And, it's supposed to be craziness.
It's a party.
It's a party, right? Punk pro party wrestling. MLW, the idea is that it's sports based, and that's, to me, to present something to a national audience. I want to present something that's sports based, and luckily, we haven't strayed too far from that.
I think you guys have done. People might fucking shit on me for this one, but hey, here's to you. I think you guys have done a better job at keeping it more sports centric than what we were promised with AEW. Minus the fucking records or what? Come on,
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I mean, standings and records and stuff. It's a good idea in theory. It really is. People, I wish they'd keep standings, but for a narrative, it doesn't always work like that because sometimes based on a narrative, you might have to have a guy off TV for 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
And then he's still third in the standings or whatever. Like, why is he still third in the standings? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get all these other questions that arrive from doing that now you have to answer these questions that you wouldn't have had to answer in the first place. Where really the idea of having a guy off TV for a couple of weeks is kind of to get you, not to forget him, but that's to give some space between, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it comes across MLW to me. I get more of a genuine sports feel, like how I kind of feel how modern wrestling, at least on a national television level, should be portrayed now. You guys definitely pull it off way better. And like I said, AEW has some things that are okay. I kind of like, when they do like they're interviewing Arn and he's giving like his coaching fucking whatever the fuck he's talking about with that with Cody. I mean, I kind of like some of that stuff, but right. Overall, like I don't think the record keeping it, let's be honest, no one really truly gives a fuck about that. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it would be neat to be able to say, okay, well, this guy's got a title match, because sometimes it'll just be a title match or something that pops up. And you're not really sure where this match came from, and you have to give it some kind of reason. Well, right. He's 3-0 in his last whatever. Like, again, in theory, it sounds good. In practice, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't really work.
Right. Who's
practice, when it's a new promotion like AEW is, and they keep like bringing in new people for excitement, for example, Brian Cage, then that's when I don't know when the record thing can get incorporated, because they had the Chosen One recently come in, and he only wrestled 3 times at the time, so he had a record. Brian Cage had a record, 1-0. Like all these guys that are going to get title shots, don't have much of a record compared to like the Lucha Brothers, who've been around since they started, and they have a record, but then they kind of disappeared for a couple months. I have no problems with any of it. It's just hard to incorporate it. So any of those diehards that are like, oh, what about the records? Let it go. I think with a lot of stuff with wrestling, just let it go. And it really is all about the story and whether you're entertained or not. And like there's lines of haha, there's lines of blood and guts, there's stuff that makes sense. I like I said, I'm a huge AEW mark, and I like the variety of everything. And like with MLW, there's also variety. At the last, like a really good example of the fact that I don't like blood and like extremes, I guess. Like when I see blood and wet hair from blood,
sure,
I'm not that into it. But help me out, Wallace, because I'm so bad with names. But it was the
LA Park.
Yeah, it was the LA Park, the last match when we went to Chicago to watch. Sister to watch
Park
it.
in oh god, now
what's his face?
Super Fight?
Fatu.
Fatu. Yeah,
they had an amazing match. Like that whole match, start to finish, and all the escalation of violence worked. Every single segment of it. Like I kept standing up because they were topping the last topping thing, and then when it was done, it was fucking done. Like there was no like. So there's certain times in a match where if you think it's done, it's like knocking the wind out of your sails, where you just celebrated something, and then they're like, ooh, no, you got like 20 more minutes, bro. And then 20 minutes pass and they do something else and you're like, ooh, here comes another 20 minutes. And then like for somebody like me, I'm like, all right, well, you guys finish whenever you want, because I'm probably going to go pee or get a beer or something, or I'm going to suffer the next 10 minutes, even if they're awesome. But that particular match was fucking awesome. And it was great. Like start to finish, escalation, everything was timed. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was. Thanks for reminding me too. There, it was the Super Fight Fatu, and I feel like I haven't seen Fatu in so long. I got a brain fart there. Like, wait a minute, who did he fight again? But no, it's Park and Fatu from Super Fight, which I believe is on. I think we showed it on one of the regular Fusion episodes too. Afterwards, maybe. I think it was the year end. The year end 2019, if you want to go check that match out for free, I think.
Hell yeah. It's definitely worth that whole pay-per-view is worth checking out. We were there.
Sure.
Love every inch of it. So what else is coming up in MLW that you could talk about that is there any plans as far as has Court said anything yet about running anything? Nothing?
No, I know that July got canceled or postponed or whatever. We were supposed to run Philly and New York.
Well, you guys were supposed to be up here in Chicago too. I thought it was like
in April. Yeah, we were supposed to be up there. So that got pushed back. As far as I know right now, we don't have anything on the books until, and I'm going to look it up right now and I'll tell you. There's also going to be, just to give you a heads up too, there's going to be another distribution announcement coming.
Nice.
Recently Court announced that we signed a deal with DAZN. DAZN. So that's going to be pretty cool. But there's going to be something else that's coming up that will give fans actually, another opportunity to check stuff out actually for free. But let's see what we have for events on the website. I'm just pulling it up now. It looks like we don't have anything on the books until October 3rd, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then December 5th, Philly. That's, everything's tentative right now.
Still pending. Yeah.
I would like to think that if we really wanted to, we could probably run in September, but that's way above my pay grade, and I'm not involved in any of that stuff. I'm literally just guessing as I'm looking at it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If stuff magically clears up somehow, which I don't think is going to happen, September sounds far away, but it's really not.
Right.
When you really think about it, as far as getting a venue booked and et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say in theory we could run September possibly, but it's probably not.
Yeah, you do, you don't. As long as you guys keep pumping out fucking content. I mean, and there's plenty of stuff. That's why I really love the anthology thing. It's a good way to, let the MLW fan base and the wrestling community know that there was a previous history with this company. And there's a lot of older content that can be presented in a new way, that I think people will fucking enjoy. That's why I'm really stoked about the Extreme Horseman.
Right. Horseman episode, there will be, I don't think Court's going to get mad at me for saying this, there will be a Dusty Rhodes match. So that's something I'm really excited to see. I got to work with Dream at the Performance Center for a while.
What was that like, man?
Awesome. It was unbelievable. Another guy that, again, I grew up watching TBS, and to see him basically every day and get to pick his brain and just have a relationship with him, talk to him. You know what I mean? A lot of times just even not about wrestling, just funny stuff. You know what I mean? Like we'd sit in the office. I have a video that only close friends will ever see, but I have a video sitting in Dusty's office with Robbie Brookside with Dusty trying to explain baseball to an Englishman. And it's really, and they're comparing soccer. And it's just really, 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 really funny. It's one of those personal things that I have. That's kind of mine, right? That I try. Just funny stuff. Dusty was just fucking hilarious. So to get to learn from him was great. So it's going to be cool to see one of his matches, one of his long lost matches coming up this weekend.
Yeah, that's super dope, man. I'm super pumped about that. Speaking of like the E and your time there, I mean, obviously that's kind of like your start. Overall, though, how would you say the whole experience was for you?
I mean, there was good and bad. It's not. I've said this before. It's not lost on me. Just the odds of getting there, doing what I was doing.
Right.
Oddly enough, it was never anything I even set out to do. I wanted to be a hockey play-by-play guy. I figured I'd get to do wrestling at some point for fun or whatever. And just the way that, things just kind of unraveled, where I was working with Booker, and next thing I know, I'm in Florida, and not too long after that, like on SmackDown, like,
right.
what the hell happened? To be honest with that, I would have preferred just to stay put at NXT. I didn't really want to go to SmackDown, being honest. A, I didn't feel I was ready. B, I wanted to stay at NXT because I thought NXT was better. But again, getting to call SmackDown, how many guys have called SmackDown? That's
right.
So these things are not lost on me by any means. And I don't want to sound ungrateful or sour grapes or whatever, but it can be a very, very difficult place to work, a very political place to work. If you're not willing to cut somebody off at the knees, you'll probably get yourself cut off at the knees.
Right.
I'm not, I've never been good at politics. You know what I mean? I've always just said, go to work, do my job as best as I can, go home.
Right.
I'm past the age where, I'm going to go out drinking with the boys to curry favor with people. I don't even drink anymore. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, anywhere you are, there's politics. You have to kind of play the game a little bit, but it's on, like anything else at WWE, you have to jack that up to 100 if you want to, really, if you want to survive there in a lot of ways. So
would you say the good outweighed the bad?
I'd say 50-50.
Okay.
I regret right now. It's like, God damn, I wish that I'm still there for a couple of years because, like, financially, I'd be all right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have a nice little nest egg by this point. But on the other hand, and I've said this to friends, I legitimately believe that had I stayed there, I probably would have had a heart attack by now. So the joke for me now, in some ways, is that I was there 2.5 years or whatever, and it was kind of like grad school for pro wrestling. Like I got my master's or my maybe my, I don't know, I'd say my PhD, but my master's at least in pro wrestling, and learned about TV production and just everything that goes into actually making the thing work. I get to see firsthand, which is invaluable. So
from the juggernaut, like like I can't even imagine when you say you feel like if you stayed, you would have had this nest egg, but you probably would have stroked out or had a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine the fucking level of stress. With pretty much anybody in that company, you commentating, talent, up to Vince, like I couldn't imagine with that brand and how huge it is and how much shit they put out during a week. It's uncanny,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, 10 hours or something of content a week. That's
a lot.
God, how, you burn through so many ideas in 10 hours a week that it's just kind of, but I learned a lot. I'm thankful for it. I really am. I got to go to places that I never thought I'd see. Again, really learned a lot about TV, and it's afforded me the opportunity to just really have some fun with wrestling, doing the stuff that I'm doing, and be at Defy, which is, I love calling those matches. I think the atmosphere out at Washington Hall is awesome. I think the next show there, I think is the end of September 26th. But, you know, I really love the way that Defy does things. And then with MLW, that's been kind of like, you know, for a lot of us, I think there's been some sweat equity there, you know, some elbow grease that hopefully now as some of these deals are starting to come through, hopefully for all of us that have been here, it's not, you know, it's not like we're slaves or anything, but, you know, hopefully that's going to provide, you know, a bit more of a financial cushion, you know, not only for the league to stay put, but for some of us that have been there working for a long time. The hope is that, okay, well now, you know, that becomes a little more sustainable, whereas to, you know, I can concentrate a little bit more on that. But, you know, who knows what's going to happen, right?
Right. It's an uncertain world and uncertain times.
Sure. Yeah, that's, you know, throw it up in the air and see where it comes down.
Was there ever a time where you wanted to punch Michael Cole in the face?
Not really. I got along well with Cole.
Is he not that bad? Is he mainly? He's just a puppet, though, right? Essentially.
I mean, I you know, that summer that I was on SmackDown, you know, Cole and I rode in a car together for 3 months or whatever, 3 or 4 months. Got to know him, you know, and just man to man, got to know him, learn about his story. You know, that there are certain things that I feel like he kind of hung me out to dry on a few times, but I think it's, you know, he had expressed to me it's politics, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, you know how this place works, and he really didn't, you know, that's what I was told. But by and large, my experiences with Cole were great. I think he's an excellent announcer. I don't, you know, if the fans really realize the work that he puts in and realized how vocal Vince is in the headset, I think I think the people that really, really, really understood it would give Cole a break. And here's the thing. Cole's job is not really a play-by-play guy.
Right.
His job, it is, but it isn't. His job is to, and he says this all the time, I'm a fake announcer for a fake sport with a fake name. Right? He is a traffic cop. His job is to get you from one segment to the next. And if the fans really understood how often things change and how they change at the last minute and how seamless Cole is able to do that, they would have a whole lot more respect for the job that Cole does. Yeah, he might not call every move, but as we talked about before, moves don't really matter. They don't. They just don't matter. They don't. What did the move do? Does it matter if it's a tomb? Well, that was a regular pile driver. You called it a tombstone. Who fucking cares? What did it do? Seriously, what did it do? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, that was a tiger suplex. But you called it a dragon 85. Suplex. Who fucking care? It's a suplex. Like I get it. You want to be in it. You know, you want to be accurate. You want to call certain things, and when you can, you do. But there's so many moves. Like, we're gonna confuse stuff sometimes. We're gonna get stuff like, it doesn't matter. What did it mean in the course of the match is what's really important. You know, and then
that's
from
tough.
It is tough.
You guys got a fucking tough job. I know me and Sreten tried doing it once. We threw some DVDs on in the studio, got fucking hammered, and like put it on silent. We're trying to call the fucking matches and shit. Didn't go over so well.
You got to be able to hear the crowd. You have to hear the
right.
You know, everything that's in there, because like it's like with Defy, for example, I call the matches by myself. The crowd is my color man. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times when I just don't say anything because most of the time as an announcer, if it's a real big moment, you know, we just had a couple of announcers just had a discussion about this the other day. Sammy Sosa's record-breaking home run, and you listen to Tom Brenneman, and you know he says, you know, whatever, you know, Ruth, Maris, McGuire, now Sosa. You know, the doors to the exclusive club have swung open, and then for 60 seconds almost, they don't say anything. It's just the crowd at Wrigley Field losing their shit.
Yeah.
And then when they go to the replay, then the analyst comes in. Okay, here it is. Like, but that, you know, there's a lot of wrestling announcers that would want to be yelling and screaming over that. Shut up. Let's hear the crowd.
Atmosphere.
It's part of yes. Yeah, you know, and you know, just to take it back to just to close the loop on what we're saying about Cole again, like the traffic cop thing. I have seen Cole legitimately go out to the desk on Raw, and he's, you know, I guess he's on SmackDown now, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
I will almost guarantee you that there are times that he goes out to SmackDown without a run sheet. If he has a run sheet, it's maybe the first segment. You go out there and do live TV and get produced through your headset, where you have two people that you're working with that are talking. You have the match going on, and now all of a sudden you've got either Vince or Kevin Dunn, or sometimes both trying to talk at the same time.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about WWE, you don't have a talk back to your producer. That is like most sports broadcasting. If I do a hockey game,
right,
there's a button, there's a cough button, red button, cough button, and you want to talk to your partner or whatever. Then there's another button that's for talk back. So if the producer says something to you and you don't hear it, hey, what was that again? What's the next thing? Oh, okay,
right.
Whatever. Right? You don't have that. There's the little spy cam, which I'm sure you've seen more Ronaldo going nuts. That literally, that is the only communication that you have. So if somebody says something to you, you're looking at the camera. I can tell you the number of times I'd look and I'd be like, and then if they don't see it or if they're whatever. So now you go into the next thing and you don't know what the fuck you're going into. And they yell at you because you don't know what you're going into. That's tough, man. That's a hard.
So hard.
So, but my point is with Cole.
Especially drunk.
Yeah, right. My point is with Cole is that he does that stuff seamlessly. 99.
He's a robot, man. He's a fucking robot. I think that's kind of. I don't care about him not calling the moves. I think he's just become really stale because he is such a part of the machine, a necessary part. You know, like
if you study WWE enough, and everything is, I mean, I guess stale is the word for it. The way the segments are laid out, the way matches are laid out, the way certain things are laid out. If you've been there long enough and you've been calling it, you almost don't need somebody to tell you what's because you kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's for example, if you watch a match on a TV show, you can kind of tell when a break spot's coming, can't you?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Okay, they're going to break, and next thing you know, I can kind of hear it. Sounds like they're going to break. Next thing you know, there's a dive to the outside. Oh my God, fucking so and so. How's he going to come back from this? I don't know. We'll be back in a minute. Like,
when we come back,
you can kind of pick that stuff out, and that's part. There's a rhythm to it. There's a cadence to it all. Once you kind of decode that stuff, it makes the job exponentially easier.
That's the part of commentating that fascinates me, and that's what we were trying to kind of fuck with when we got hammered to have fun, and also because I was nervous, I was embarrassed, even though it was just the two of us. It was all private. Everything was just we sat in our studio.
He was throwing me off. I'm trying to call all these fucking moves and shit, and he's just like,
that rhythm that you have to find out is such a fascinating thing that, like, no matter who your partner is or if you're by yourself or if you're playing off the crowd, that formula that each commentator, whether you're the color guy or the other guy, like that formula is so fascinating to me in the world of wrestling. It's a huge part of why I've gotten into it as much as I have, because I love listening to each. So now we have subscriptions to like the different independent wrestling promotions, and then we got MLW and we do NWA, and we watch all these things, and it's awesome to hear everybody's way and everybody's rhythm based on what they're familiar with, so when AEW started, they had a bunch of dudes that used to be legends, or like somebody like Taz, who wasn't known for his commentary but did it for a couple years and then came back, and there were people that were not fans of his commentary that noticed, oh shit, he got a little better at this or that, or he's more entertaining, and we got a little break. And so you just see all these different ways that different dudes do it for better or worse, but that formula is fascinating because it's so motherfucking hard.
It is. There's also things to be said, as you go on with with commentary, you learn how to cover for guys. When I don't mean your partner, I mean for stuff that happens in the ring that's, if it's a botch or if it doesn't make sense or whatever, you learn ways to not bury people in the ring unless you want to bury them because they're dicks. You know what I mean? Like, so, again, I say that kind of mostly in jest because it's not about that. It's about getting what's over or getting what's in the ring over and make it. So it's the announcer in many ways is really the last line of defense, where if something falls apart, you need to try to find a way to make sense of it.
Right.
And that there are different ways that you can do that for, like you talked about Cornette earlier, for example. Everybody's using doors now in wrestling because you can't buy wooden tables anymore. They just don't make them anymore. Right. So instead of wooden tables, they're going Go to Home Depot and you get the cutout door.
Yeah.
So, like at Fest, for example, we were doors. So Max and I that do Fest, we came up with the joke that Gainesville, Florida is the secondhand door capital of the United States. As a matter of fact, we have the used door district down on 3rd. Yeah, there's Susie's doors, and that's she'll jump in the door with you. And that's a Simpsons thing if you don't know.
Yeah. The hammock district. Hammock district.
Ooh, the hammock district. That's right. So that kind of became the ha-ha for that. Why are there so many doors? But MLW, for example, we get just the wooden unpainted doors. I don't want to say that. Why is there a door under the ring? It doesn't make any sense. So how am I going to do it? Cornette, right off the top of it, said, "Oh, that's one of those that's one of the extra ring boards. Look, there's an X on it. That's so they know where to place it." Now, and the bell went off in my head. They're ring boards, just in case one of the boards in the ring breaks. Makes perfect fucking sense. So as an announcer, how do you do that? It's just experience, really.
You got to be quick witted though. Like I go back to a guy like probably the quickest wit in professional wrestling that the industry's ever seen, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Man, I mean, he's called the Brain for fucking that particular reason. He was a guy. He could do that. He could do anything. Like he was fucking great, man.
You had a question too?
I had a question. So what would you have one or two pieces of advice that you'd give to somebody, like let's say somebody that likes what you do, like, or how did you get good at what you do? Because I know recently, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Cornette. It was it might have been Schiavone that said, like, how do you? Like, somebody asked him the same question, and they said stuff like, you actually do like watch wrestling matches, write down stuff. If you have something clever that you think might get over during an event, write that shit down in a notebook and try it out like a stand-up or whatever. But what kind of piece of advice would you give? Because they're like, obviously there's a huge difference between two dickheads in a darkened studio getting hammered trying to like be funny and what you do with various promotions who all have their own style and communicative process and all that stuff for you to be able to do your job. How would you answer that?
Well, I'm actually building like a seminar type thing. I tried out some of my material on some guinea pigs a while back, and I'm just trying to figure out the best way to present it. So I thought about just doing Zoom seminars or whatever. Nick Hausman actually said, no. What are you always telling guys in the ring? Slow down. He's like, slow down with this. You can make this, 4 or 5 different episodes or whatever. You know what I mean? You can do a Patreon. So I don't know exactly how I'm putting that together yet. I have most of the material down. It's how do I break it up and how do I present it best? So that's coming. So if you really want to learn, this is where I do my spiel. No, if it's something that you're really interested in checking out, I'm on Twitter. You guys have my Twitter. If you're listening, if you want to follow me at Rich Bocchini, RichBoccini. But when that's ready to go, I'm not saying I'm the be all end all, but I've been there, and I think I'm maybe even hopefully a better teacher than I am a play-by-play guy. So there's that. The biggest piece of advice that I will give any announcer, it ain't about you. It's not about you. It's not about you being clever. It's not about you being fun. You're not Bobby the Brain Heenan. You're not going to be Bobby the Brain Heenan. You're a local guy calling local wrestling. Let's call it and that's not a knock. It's not a knock at all. But how many independent wrestling shows do you listen to where there's some guy who's, the owner's friend or whatever, and he comes in, he's got sunglasses on, a shiny jacket. Like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Call a fucking match. You know what I mean? Call the match, get the fucking match over. And, like we were talking about Tom Brenneman before, that's how it should be. It's not about you. It's not.
It's once the product,
once you get to a certain level, then that stuff can kind of, and I'm not saying if you have a witty, I'm not saying don't be witty, don't be right. So many guys just want to force it.
Try too hard. Yeah.
Try way too hard.
Let it come natural.
Just call the match, learn the mechanics. You want to get to a point where you can pretty much call a match in your sleep. And I don't say that to diminish the importance of a match, but really.
So that's what you do.
Yeah. A lot of times I want to be, but you should be focusing on learning learning the sequences, learning the rhythm of the match. Like once you see enough matches, you can kind of tell what's coming, what are they going for next? You kind of know. And really that's just through repetition. So I guess that's my main two pieces of advice just on the fly. It's not about you. I know a lot of people love Mauro Ranallo. I don't have a problem with Mauro. His style for me is way too over the top. But that's him. And there's only one Mauro Ranallo.
Right.
There's not going to be another one. Right. So focus on just being natural, as natural as you can be. Remember, it's not about you. It's about what's going on in the ring. And just try to get as many reps as you can. Those are my two blanket statements or, pieces of advice.
Cool.
Solid advice to live by, boys and girls out there listening.
I try sometimes. Not often, but sometimes.
So real quick before we end here, Rich, what else you got going on that you're into, man, as far as, just outside of wrestling? And I mean, you're a big hockey fan, you like baseball. What else you like doing, man?
I'm into punk rock. I like going to shows. Yeah.
Really? Well, all right. You just kind of struck an interest. I'm a huge punk myself. I mean, like since I was a little kid, I've told the story a million times. I found Nirvana. Nirvana opened the doors to Black Flag, Meat Puppets, Descendants, all that shit. What's some of the punk that you kind of like to rock out to?
Real quick, I grew up in the Providence area. There was a legendary club in Providence called Club Babyhead. If you look it up, like everybody played there. And in the early to mid 90s, I was there all the time. And saw, bands from across the musical spectrum. Fest, for example, I'm sure you know what Fest is, right? Aside from the wrestling,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's always awesome.
Yeah.
Last year, Jawbreaker played at the last one. It was awesome to see Jawbreaker. You talk about bands that I'd seen way back when. Like it was funny because at Fest this past year, both Jawbox and Jawbreaker played, and I had never seen Jawbreaker. But back in I want to say 94 or 95, I had actually seen Jawbox in Providence. Trying to think of bands that that were around back then, like Quicksand. I saw a bunch of times. Helmet. I saw Helmets.
Oh yeah.
They opened their Meantime tour in Providence.
Fuck yeah.
So I'd seen them a number of times, and then trying to think of other bands. Slapshot out of Boston. Big fan of theirs. I was into death metal and metal. I like honestly.
Really?
Like,
what kind of? That's that's the shit I do. I actually, when you get a chance, go check out my band, dude. Handsome Prick. It's grindcore. It's like death grind, but it's punk. There's classic rock.
World Downfall by Terrorizer is one of my favorite grindcore records.
I was just, that's fucking great answer, dude. Pete Sandoval, man.
Dude, it set the stage for, because a lot of the metal core, grindcore, whatever, a lot of it was really sloppy back then.
Yeah.
And they're a band that brought the precision of metal, the energy of hardcore, and, in a lot of ways, the lyrical content of political punk all into one thing.
Right.
Kind of, to a lesser extent, Nuclear Assault did that. Like the Nuclear Assault Survive is very, came out in 88, I think, 87 or 88. But if you listen to it, there is a New York, because they're from New York too. There's a New York hardcore influence, but there's, they're a metal band. So if you hear that, it's awesome. Violence, I don't know if you remember. Violence, I believe, has a new record coming out, which blew my mind because I thought Sean Killian died or almost died a couple years ago. I never saw them, but since it came out, Eternal Nightmare, God, unbelievable record. I saw a lot of those at Fest this year during Mania. We were supposed to have a show where Obituary.
Yeah,
I saw Obituary and Sacred Reich in 1990 or something, right? So I've seen a lot of this stuff. As I've gotten a little bit older, I haven't really heard a whole lot of metal or death metal that has interested me, because how are you going to do better than World Downfall? You know what I mean? How do you do better than Slowly Rerot? There's some of it here and there that I've been into, but my musical tastes have gone all over the place. I love jangly indie pop. You know what I mean? Okay. There's a band out of Minneapolis called The Hang-Ups, which is just this jangly indie pop band. It's awesome. Rainer Maria is another band I really love a lot. So, I could sit here for the next hour and probably talk to you about, okay, I like this band who's influenced from this, and whatever. I don't think anybody really wants to hear that, but we definitely have that in common. And actually in the early 2000s, I was a drummer in a band. I played in a lot of bands over the years.
Nice.
I don't know if the name Don Fury means anything to you, but
it sounds really familiar.
He produced a lot of the late 80s, early 90s a lot of hardcore records that were on like Revelation Records.
Okay.
And he did Quicksand. He did a lot of Quicksand's early stuff. So he had a studio. He's somewhere in New York now, but at the time that we went down there, he was on Coney Island, and we actually went and recorded a 4-song deal with Don, which is cool. So I've been around the block in that.
You got a copy of that?
Yeah, I can send you some stuff for sure.
Yeah, look it up.
So it's funny seeing how wrestling and honestly, like independent wrestling and independent music are very, very closely related in the way that it operates and the way that you have to promote yourself and get in the car and fucking go
and fucking do it.
Yeah, just go somewhere and play for nothing. You know what I mean?
And starve. Oh yeah, man. I went on some really bad tours. We're fucking it almost seemed like ramen was a fucking luxury we couldn't afford. Yeah. It has to be. I think the thing that separates it too is that the people that are successful, you have to. Yeah. Here's my other piece of advice, and this is something that the Dream told me. He used to say all the time, "You gotta have the passion, baby. You gotta have the passion." And it's true. And you can tell people that are in wrestling that, they're in it because it's the flavor of the month and they, whatever, they're okay, I'm going to do wrestling, but it's not here. And music is the same way. You can tell when a band's not sincere. You can see that. I can anyway. I can sniff that out a mile away. And it's just like, no That's
interest.
why I'm like, dude, I'm a musical snob and I listen to some weird shit. I'll bounce around and like, what the fuck you go from like Rick Astley to, Cannibal Corpse or some shit and Frank Zappa and all the above. But, man, I could, like a rat, man, I could fucking sniff them out a mile away. And it's just like, I'm sorry, but that shit sucks. And unfortunately with a lot of the, like, we call it the wrestling rock, it's so bad, dude.
Oh, it's awful.
It's so bad. Me and my girlfriend joke, she's like, oh my God, like she loves Cody Rhodes, but then his song comes out, she's like, oh, like why does everybody have bad music? Because licensing's expensive.
Well, that's the big part of it. I've actually the last couple of days been listening to a lot of Britpop type stuff. Like there's a band called Echo Belly, which is around, who I love.
Yeah, that seems really familiar too.
Great band, and I've always been into them. They have a song called "Call Me Names," and there's a line. There's the second verse of the song. It just really hit me listening to it with everything that's going on around us. The singer of that band was born in India, moved to England when she was 2, and the song is about her perspective of being dark-skinned and growing up and just wanting to be like everybody else. And why do you call me names? You know what I mean? And it just with everything going on, it really struck me. And I don't know if it sounds corny or not, but it just really struck me in a way that I think just never really did before. But I've been listening to them, and you can tell that it comes from a place that's sincere. And even like the other night, I was watching the Cure's 40th anniversary stuff.
Fuck yeah!
And it's like, Robert Smith still sounds awesome. The band still sounds great.
He looks like a melting ice cream cone. No,
I had said he either looks like somebody's methed out grandmother or like a weird version of the crazy cat lady from The Simpsons, right? It's like this weird mix of them. But goddamn, man, like
he sounds awesome.
He sounds awesome, and it's from an honest place. And I with wrestling, it's the same thing. I think you can feel it. I think you can. You almost kind of have to have a spidey sense for it, right? Where you can just kind of, you're a poser. You're fucking, you don't feel it. You're faking it,
Real recognizes real, man. I've said it many, many times, and it's the truth,
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's not enough real to go around. just a little bit.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It is.
Hey, but maybe one day the world will be a better place.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I gotta let it go. Anyways, Rich, we're gonna have to do this again sometime because, dude, I feel like we got so much shit to talk about.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could go for a lot longer too, especially you start talking about like the death metal and shit. Like I said, dude, please check out Handsome Prick. I think it's something new and fresh, and it doesn't sound like shit, and it's pretty fucking real. I think you'll dig it, man.
All right, yeah, I'll check it out for sure. I'll send you some of the stuff that I told you about too.
For sure. We got album 3. Actually, it's just got the master back, so everybody's gonna get ready to get that shit unleashed upon them, and they ain't ready yet.
Cool, man.
But
good stuff.
Real quick before we end here, let everybody know where they can find you on social media and shit.
Yeah, again, I am on the Twitter. Very easy to find, but very difficult to spell. At Rich Bocchini, RichBoccini, RichBoccini. That's the most visible social media platform that they can get me. I think I have my messages open. I think so. You could probably send me a message if you'd like to. If not, just follow me there. And if you have a question, I usually answer pretty quickly. So
that is correct. And for everybody out there listening and continuing to support the Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast, thank you. We're available every week with new episodes every Wednesday on all podcasting platforms, with that episode dropping the next day on Thursday via YouTube. So, hey, I hope you had fun, Rich.
Oh,
pleasure. We're going to have to fucking rock this shit again. It's going to be a fucking blast. I'm excited for everybody to check this shit out, man. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on, man. We're going to have to do this again, homie.
I appreciate it, guys, and I've had fun, and for sure, if we don't see you in Chicago before, then let me know, and we'll meet up again on here anytime.
Oh yeah, for sure, brother. There's one more thing I gotta do. I gotta wet them up, wet them up, wet them up. Oh my God, I'm so wet for Rich Bocchini. It's fucking insane. That's a wrap.
You gonna do sex to me?